Are you sitting comfortably?
Oh, yes, yes.
Then I'll begin.
Even when you're just sitting around, we're rocking the talk.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. Let's go over to the Middle East right now and the conjunction between what's happening in Gaza and U.S. politics. Niko House, I believe we've got him on the line right now. Niko, how are you?
I'm doing great, Pat. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Well, we'd love to have some of your weather down there in Brazil, my friend. We're a little bit chilly where we are here in Moscow, but we're going to get used to it. We're acclimating. Niko, Gaza, there was a lot to talk about. We are going to cover the massacre, the most recent massacre in the second hour. But this convergence between U.S. politics, which I find to be incredibly fascinating, and the Democrat Party, Joe Biden, what on earth happened over the last week? I didn't think it was possible after you've rigged the primaries to basically keep any challengers out, that you could actually still lose in some districts. How is this even possible, Niko?
Yeah, I mean, fascinating is probably the best word to describe it, because for perhaps the first time in the history of the United States, in the history of AIPAC and Israel influencing U.S. politics, we might see a candidate suffer political consequences for the policies that they've practiced regarding Israel and Palestine. The movement Abandon Biden, which is a movement that was started by Arab Americans, primarily Palestinians, and Muslims, they came together and it started in Dearborn, Michigan, but it's since spread. They came together and said, we're not voting for Biden. Matter of fact, they actually came together and said, not only are we not voting for Biden, but we are encouraging others not to. And then when people tried to shame them, of course, as expected, and say, oh, that means you want Trump to win. They said, no. We said we're abandoning Biden because of his policy. We're holding him accountable. And they've remained steadfast in that movement. And as a result, Joe Biden lost Dearborn, Michigan. He lost. Dearborn is a huge city. It's a massive district. And he lost in total to uncommitted, quote unquote, plus 100,000 votes. Now, for those of you who don't know, Michigan, first of all, no Democrat in my lifetime has won an election, general election, without Michigan. And the time that they have won, except for Obama, because Obama, the 2008 Obama situation was kind of an anomaly. But except for Obama, they generally only won by 100,000 to 150,000 votes. Now, as you can imagine, as things heat up, a lot of those votes are going to swing, like separate from the 100,000, separate from those who voted for Biden. A lot of those votes are going to swing from Marianne Williamson, from Dean Phillips into one direction or another. And the longer Joe Biden stays in the race, obviously, it's probably going to be that people are going to be less fascinated with the idea of him being president for a second term. Probably including himself, to be honest. So what we found out is that for the first time, this situation in Gaza, the situation in Palestine, the apartheid that Israel has perpetuated for 6 or 7 decades now, has finally begun to have some political consequences, and the Palestinian voices are finally reaching the ears of those who actually have a chance to influence the outcomes in the United States.
How do you describe this, Niko? Because normally when there's a contentious issue and you have protest votes, it's usually those votes are going to be redirected to another candidate or a third party even. Here, it's being redirected to none of the above. So what do we even call this? Is this like a voter sacrifice? I mean, this is kind of an act of, I don't know, sacrifice, or it's taken an extreme.
I don't call it an act of sacrifice, because it's like, to sacrifice something, that means you would have had to have gained something. You would have had to have something to lose. And because it's not like these voters have been incentivized to vote Biden because of all the great policies he's passed domestically, Pat. You know what I'm saying? It's not like so let's look away from Gaza. How has Biden engaged with Yemen up to this point? Not well, right? They were not helping. And recently, the only reason relations have gotten better with Yemen overall is because Saudi Arabia made the first gesture to try and resolve that situation and bring about a peace deal. You look at what the results economically. when it comes to the actions that the U.S. and NATO, which was led by the U.S., took regarding Ukraine and Russia. Literally everybody in the world is paying for it except for Russia. Russia's doing great because of it. But energy prices, food prices, supply chain issues. I mean, the list goes on. So it's not like they're sacrificing their vote, but maybe, just maybe, a lot of people would have said, well, at least he's better than Trump on this one issue. Or at least he won't pretend that he's on our side. Because people have to remember, if in no other way but superficially, that is the Democratic Party's base, right? He won Dearborn handedly in 2020. He won in the 2020 primary. But yet they flipped on him. And the difference between him and Trump in that very specific regard is Trump isn't pretending to be their ally. Trump didn't run and say, I'm going to do what you guys told me to do and voted for me to do, and then do the opposite. And then, and what's even more disgusting is everybody remembers on Monday, Biden came out with a press conference saying what? There was a ceasefire imminent and it was led by the U.S. He said the negotiations were being led by the U.S. And then after the election, Hamas and Netanyahu came out and said, we have no idea what the hell this guy's talking about. We did not agree to a ceasefire, and which is crazier because we know that Netanyahu just last week denied a hostage exchange in exchange for a ceasefire. So, and then of course, right after the election was over, he still didn't get the results he wanted. He ended up saying, my bad, man, it wasn't really a ceasefire. We thought there might have been, but it probably won't happen on Monday. Nobody thought that. But what it does acknowledge is that he was even aware of just how strong the abandoned Biden movement was in Michigan. And in my opinion, he was trying to dissuade those voters from voting uncommitted, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So he lied. He once again lied to his base, pretending as if the U.S. was going to lead the ceasefire, because they've been able to get away with that in the past, Pat. They've been able to get away with that in the past. Didn't work this time. They were steadfast in their convictions. And to be honest, I know it sounds crazy. Of course, would it be great to have a third party? Yeah, would it be great to have maybe some of those votes go third party in the general election? Yeah, but for this, I was excited, man, because people were asking, how come a third party didn't get 100,000 votes or probably won't even get 100,000 votes? And I'm like, because issues always unite faster than people. And finally, the people have an issue to vote for and unite behind regarding foreign policy. And they're getting it right right now. So this is an important moment in U.S. politics, and I hope everybody's paying attention.
No, it's an act of true solidarity on a very important issue, like so important that this happens. This really speaks volumes. So Joe Biden was very confident, as you said, licking his ice cream cone.
I was going to say, anti-imperialists finally got good news. Like in a week, we got George Galloway won his election. He's about to be a member of parliament again, right? We got this uncommitted beat Joe Biden in one of the most important cities for the upcoming election that he absolutely cannot win without swaying that city to vote for him again, right? We finally are starting to see some conclusive evidence that there might just be an anti-war movement, an anti-imperialist movement building up around the world.
No, we're seeing the signals for this. And so Joe Biden, for his part, slurping on the ice cream cone with Seth Meyers, a comedian of some description, very cocky. And so we got that clip, actually. I want to get your reactions to this. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but go ahead and roll this. Joe Biden and Seth Meyers just before alluding to some kind of peace deal in the works. Go ahead and roll this.
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend. I mean, the end of the weekend. At least my national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. It's not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire.
Okay, thank you. I mean, honestly, like, does it get any worse than this? I mean, I haven't seen anything like that before.
Yeah, straight. It's like, it's a blatant lie. And what's crazy is that we know for a fact that he literally bypassed Congress in order to get weapons to Israel. I mean, not like Israel wasn't. It just takes a little bit longer through Congress, but they're ultimately going to get what they want. We already know that about Israel. It's just about whether or not the Republicans want to give weapons to the Ukraine and Israel instead of just Israel. That's usually what the disagreement is. but that was taking too long, so we bypassed Congress in order to get weapons to Israel and get quote unquote aid to Israel. It's disgusting the way he sits there and pretends that he's trying to reach a peace deal, knowing damn well he hasn't talked to Hamas. His advisors have been very clear. I don't know how you can reach a peace deal when you've made it clear our loyalty is to defending Israel. What deal are you trying to make? Your deal seems to, like, it seems like what they're trying to suggest is we're trying to make Palestine give up.
Yeah.
That's what their deal seems to be. And we're just going to keep giving weapons to Israel until then.
Yeah, they're just imagining that there's no Palestinians there on the other end of the negotiation table. That's what it seems like. It's a two-way. If there's a ceasefire, it's going to be a two-way agreement, and you can just kind of sense that that's not even on the cards. And again, you've confirmed that previously when you said that both Israel and Hamas weren't aware of any peace deal in the works. So again, this is all just political fodder in a really just bizarre and completely dysfunctional primary season. No one's seen anything like this, Niko. Write-in ballot campaigns for an unopposed Democrat candidate. I mean, obviously they try to keep RFK and whoever else off back when they were panicking over the summer. Everyone remembers what was happened, what was said. This is totally unprecedented in U.S. history.
There's a lot of stuff unprecedented happening right now, and what it really shows to me is just how much Israel has really had their thumb on the scales when it comes to our elections. Except for before, it was like from the shadows, right? They've been able to kind of avoid accountability and avoid being seen, because the moment that you ever bring up Israel being involved with the U.S. elections, everybody calls you, at one point, everybody would call you anti-Semitic, which is insane because you can literally just go to the FEC website and see how much AIPAC influences our politicians. It isn't like it's literally quote unquote open secret, no pun intended, but that you can just go to Open Secrets and see the website. So, but now they're more overt about it. Before they could pay U.S. politicians would do their bidding and then drape it in whatever partisan makeup they had to drape it with in order to sell it to the people. So either people would accept what was being said by the politicians, or they would ignore it because they were just more worried about the partisan politics involved. Now it's different. Now the Israel has begun overtly trying to justify what they're doing, because now I guess we're in the social media era. You can't really ignore what's being seen. They try to take away the internet, a Palestinian provided internet in the region, which is crazy to me. I don't even know how that was even possible, but they were able to do so. And now the world's seen them for who they are. And Israel has gotten the benefit of never really having to practice shame. They've never had to have any shame, Pat, because why? The U.S. is going to say whatever they have to. They're going to always make Israel out to be the victim. NATO powers are always going to make Israel out to be the victim. And they've never actually had to come out and defend their nonsense, to defend their apartheid, to defend their genocide, because they're being asked questions for the first time that they've never been asked before. And to be frank, excuse my language, they're showing their whole ass. They're showing, and it's like, hold up, these people are insane. They're insane. Like, their leaders are insane. Absolutely. And that's part of the reason why they stay in power, is because unfortunately, they always talk about how kids have been indoctrinated to quote unquote hate Jews or hate Israelis over in Palestine. Like, you don't need to indoctrinate them. Their house is being bulldozed. You bulldozed my house one time. We got beef for the rest of our lives. There's nothing else that needs to be said to me. But we're literally seeing videos of kids being taught to hate Palestinian kids, right? They're saying now that the kids in Israel are more right-wing than the adults are. That's what they're
crazy.
Saying. Right? Can you get more right-wing than that? But yeah, that's what they're saying.
That's insane. I mean, this is the reality of the situation, and we got a couple minutes before we go to break. We're going to wrap this segment up in a couple minutes, Niko. But we haven't spoke since you've last been to the Middle East yourself, where you were on the ground, had a chance to meet activists, to talk to people, to get a sort of a better idea of what's happening and how it's affecting people in the region. Just quickly, share your experience with us. What struck you the most? What are some of the big observations and feelings and insights you had?
Man, so I went to Egypt with the group, and the biggest takeaway was that Egypt has been asked to bear the brunt of the responsibility for the terror that's been caused by the U.S., NATO powers, EU, Israel specifically. I went to a school full primarily of Syrian orphans. They had a couple of Somalian, Iraqi, and Egyptian orphans there too, but primarily Syrian orphans in a neighborhood that was completely Syrian. This is a huge neighborhood. And I've come to find out that almost 100,000 Syrian refugees are in Egypt. Tens of thousands of Somalian refugees are in Egypt. Tens of thousands of Sudanese refugees are in Egypt. Iraqis. And these are all conflicts in some way, form, or fashion that were started by and perpetuated by the U.S., NATO, and then specifically Israel. You have a lot of these Israelis pointing, oh, how come you're not paying attention to Sudan and Somalia? And then you go and do some research, you find out, interesting that you say that because y'all motherfuckers are responsible for that too. So, but the designers don't know that, right? So it just let me know that there's a reason that Egypt has to kind of like set boundaries in the way that they're handling the situation, because the U.S. and Israel have bullied them in a lot of ways to accepting these refugees into, I would say, a little bit past developing nation, but it's still developing nonetheless. And, trying to pay them off. But at what point can Egypt just be like, at what point should they be like, yo, can y'all not stop doing this? We can't keep doing this. And it's not good for obviously the people who have to move there, but it's also not good for the Egyptian citizens, because there is a responsibility that they have to take on, right? That people in the US and the EU should be fully aware of, because they're constantly bitching about illegal immigration. So and constantly bitching about refugees. So you understand that responsibility that the people kind of have to assume. So why do we think that Egypt should have to bear the brunt of the responsibility of the damage that's been caused by the US, NATO powers, and Israel itself?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't appreciate that very, very sensitive issue in the region, and this is also shared by a number of other countries in the region as well. As you said, countries that tend to bear the brunt of mass immigration or mass people fleeing war zones and so forth. And we've got one on our hands right now, brewing in Rafah right now in southern Gaza. That is just unfathomable if it does come to fruition, as the Israelis are promising. It seems anyway that they're going to be doing that during Ramadan.
Another safe zone, Pat. Another safe zone, huh?
Yeah, another safe zone, another humanitarian corridor, and we've seen it all before. Just another version of the same old redux. But we hope anyway that there will be a better outcome than the one that a lot of people are blackpilling at the moment. In their sort of, it's hard not to. It's hard not to, because things are looking grim. And by the way, Niko, I speak to people in the region too. They're not terribly optimistic about the outcome of this current situation. So that is worrying, but we have to remain positive and pray that the people will be spared the worst possible results that we've already seen happen. So again, we have to stay positive and support the people that are doing good work on the ground and around this issue. Everybody, it's really important that we do that now. Don't get too jaded. Don't lose hope. There's still a lot of work to do to remedy this situation. Niko, we really appreciate you joining us this week on TNT. Appreciate your insights. Do stay in touch. Hopefully we'll catch up with you very soon.
Stay warm, man.
Right. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Niko House. You can follow his work. It's also Hotspot Media is his outlet. You want to be following him on X, Twitter, also on TikTok as well, and any other platforms. We'll drop his ID for X and TikTok in the TNT chat community. So do hook up with Niko. His hot take videos are epic, and he does those on a regular basis. Let's take a break right now. We'll connect with our next guest from the Workers' Party of Britain, Nadia Clark, on the other side to talk about George Galloway's stunning victory in the by-elections in the UK for Parliament. All this and more on the other side. I'm Patrick Henningsen. We'll be right back.
Are you sitting comfortably?
Oh, yes.
Then I'll begin.
Even when you're just sitting around, we're rocking the talk.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host.